So let me share my screen with you. Okay, so our topic for today is all about dynamic arrays. But before we proceed to the dynamic arrays, how are we going to, first, of course, yung basic part. So how are we going to make a dynamic, a variable to make it dynamic? Okay, so when you say dynamic, di ba, pag sinabi nating dynamic allocation, it grows and shrink during the execution. So when you say grows and shrink, okay, hindi siya dinideclare sa declaration like int a. Ito yung example natin na to. Yung a variable is a simple variable. So from the previous example, if we're going to make use of a pointer and we want to point our pointer variable to the address of variable a, ito yung ginagawa natin. Okay? So, ibig sabihin yan, meron tayong talagang in-specify na allocation, which is yung variable a para kay pointer. But if we're going to make it dynamic one, pag sinabi natin it grows and shrink during the execution, we do not actually declare a variable or an allocation. So, ang i-declare lang natin is the pointer variable. Okay? So, pag sinabi nating pointer variable, now the question is, how are we going to point our pointer to an allocation para gamitin natin yung pointer variable para mag-input, mag-process, at mag-output. So, instead of using the ampersand sign A, because ampersand sign A is no longer available in the declaration, or we do not declare a variable, okay, because A is already a static one. So, when you say static, given na siya during the execution, wala nga tayong variable, kundi gagawa tayo ng variable pero hindi tayo magde-declare sa declaration. So ang gagamitin natin is dynamic variable or dynamic allocation. Okay, so how are we going to do that? We simply use an operator. What is that operator? We use the word new. Okay, new means we are going to create an allocation dynamically. So space, and then what are we going to do here is kung ano yung declaration nung pointer natin, yun din yung declaration ng allocation natin. So same thing with declaring A as int. So pointer will be pointed to the address of A that contains a variable and a value with an integer value or whole number value. So ganyan lang siya. And then you may already input the value. Ito rin yun. Tapos, hindi yung process. So, ano lang ang pinagkaiba when it comes to dynamic allocation? Yung tatanggalin natin yung static or yung declaration ng variable, and then we're going to replace ampersand sign variable to new, and then yung declaration natin. If the pointer here is car, so that means we're going to change this also as car, meaning we are accepting a value in an allocation, in a dynamic allocation that will contains a character value. Okay? So, balik natin si int. Balik natin here also si int. So, when I run the code, so same lang ha. Again, we only change what portion. Yung when we point pointer to the address of A, instead of pointing pointer to the address of A, we use the new operator. Meaning, new operator means we are creating an allocation dynamically. So, pag dynamic, it grows. Okay? So, meaning to say, when we declare this, okay, dun lang siya magkikreate ng allocation. Pero kung wala ito, walang allocation, pointer variable lang. So, instead of, example, if I declare here A, dalawa yung allocation natin. Isang simple variable allocation na walang laman at yung isang pointer variable na walang pointer pa. Okay? O wala pang nakapoint na address sa kanya. Since ang dynamic ay walang variable, so we're not going to declare a static variable. Instead, we only declare a pointer variable. And to assign allocation, we use new. Okay? And then int is what will be or what should be the content of that particular allocation. Okay? May address pa rin siya, but instead of A, okay, wala siyang pangalan. Kumbaga, para lang siyang box with no name, okay? Unlike yung dati, may box siya with the name of A. Yun lang yung pagkakaiba nila. Alright? So now, how are we going to populate the content or the box? Well, same thing pa rin. Enter a value for A instead of enter a value for A, enter value na lang tayo. Then we are going to make use again the pointer. Asterisk PTR means getting the content or populating the content. If we want to add, to display already the value where pointer PTR is pointed, so again, same thing pa rin, we're going to make use of asterisk PTR. But if you want to get the address of that particular box that points the pointer PTR, so again, we do not use the asterisk sign, but instead, we only use the PTR or the variable of the pointer. Okay, so here, wala na tayong address of A. So address where PTR is pointed is, and then here, value is na lang tayo. Okay, so if I'm going to run the code, so I'm going to run the code, namespace. If I'm going to run the code, what's this? Mali ako, cin. Okay na yan. If I'm going to run the code, and I'm going to enter and populate the value of where pointer PTR is pointed in a box without a name. So the value is 6, and then the address that pointer PTR is pointed is 0xcc1540. So yun siya. Okay, so let's have Excel file. Let's have this. Okay, so if we're going to illustrate this problem, okay, asterisk PTR and then uint, so that will be, this is a box, for example. We call this box as pointer PTR. Okay, so dito natin sa ilalim ilagay. So this is pointer PTR. Okay, so pointer PTR at first is question mark at line 1. So sabihin natin, this is line numbers. Ayan, para tayo, line number 1, yun, line number 10 here. So lagay natin dito, line number 10. For line number 10, this is the declaration of a pointer. So we created a pointer variable na wala pang naka-point na address sa kanya, kaya naka-question mark. So si PTR is naka-question mark. Okay? PTR, naka-question mark. So box siya. Then next tayo, ito, si line 15. Lagay natin dito, line 15. So for line 15, ang nakalagay ay PTR equals new int, semicolon. So how are we going to illustrate that? Again, this is PTR. Okay? And then, pag sinabing new int, magkakreate ulit ako ng isang box na walang laman. Tapos, si pointer PTR, nakaturo na dito. So let's say, for example, ang address nito ay yung kanina, 0, kunwari lang, 0xCCH123. For example lang, yun yung address. So, kapag si pointer nag-new int tayo, ang laman ngayon nitong PTR na to ay yung address mismo na yun. Then, saan nakaturo yung pointer PTR? So, I'm going to insert line. Saan na ba yung line? Insert illustration shapes this line. Yeah. So what will happen is insert shape. So what will happen is this box will be pointed to this box. So that means my pointer is pointed to an allocation that is dynamically created because of the new declaration or the new operator. So ito, wala pang laman. Question mark pa siya. Kasi ang ginawa pa lang natin is PTR is equals to new int. Naintindihan po? Nagigets po yan? Okay. Next. So if we want to populate it at line 19, so we say, cin asterisk PTR. So that means we're going to make use of pointer PTR. Copy ko lang ito. This time, hindi na siya ngayon question mark. Kasi we are already populating the value. So, for example, ang in-input ko ay 65. Okay, so what will happen if we already, populated the value where pointer PTR is pointed using cin, so what will happen is here at line 22 and 23, line 22 and 23, yan na yung cout natin. Yan, yung cout na to, highlight ko lang. Copy ko na lang siya rito. Okay. Yan, copy ko na lang siya. So what will happen here is, what should be the value? So output is 65 and L, the other one is yung address nung allocated variable. Clear po? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now, since this is allocated dynamically, okay, so ang mangyayari kapag hindi nyo na ginamit yung isang allocation and then you point the pointer PTR to another value, so what will happen? Mangyayari sa kanya para siyang dangling value. So to free the allocation for that particular dynamic allocation at the end of the program, you should always use, kasi di ba, the definition is it grows and shrink. Shrink means you need to delete the dynamic allocation when you are not already using that particular allocation. So using delete. Okay? And then since this is a simple variable, you just simply delete PTR semicolon. So you're not deleting PTR, but instead you are deleting the allocation where pointer PTR is pointed. So in line 25, you use delete PTR. Okay, so what will happen? So if this is my state of my PTR is pointed to this allocation. If I'm going to use delete, what will happen is, mawawala ito, tatanggal to, ibig sabihin, ito magiging question mark ulit. So, nagpunta siya ulit doon sa parang part na ng line 10 where initially pointer PTR is not pointed to any address. Okay, so kailangan natin gawin yon. So that is actually the simulation when it comes to simple variable. So next, since we already familiar with simple variable and then we created a dynamic allocation for a simple variable, let's naman do the array naman. So for array, so if you're going to see my declaration here, this is our example from the previous one. We created an array, which is a one-dimensional array, which is named as num, and then we have 10 allocation. So that means we have 10 boxes. Okay, so if I'm going to illustrate it again here, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yan. So we have 10 boxes. Okay, so this one is position 0, position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the name of this is num. Yan. Okay, so that's the declaration of our array. Okay, so the size is 10. So when we simulated it and we want to illustrate it, this will be the illustration of that particular array. So again, this is not dynamic because we declare variable num. So to make it dynamic again, we're not going to make use of a variable array. Okay, so ang gagawin natin, we're not going to make use of this one. Okay, so tanggalin na lang natin using program comment. So instead, we're going to make use of pointer variables. Okay, so pointer PT1 here will be pointed to the array. Okay, so ito yung i-create natin, yung pagkikreate natin ng dynamic allocation. Pointer PT2 will be pointed to the address of high. Ito na, nakita na natin siya. Pointer PT3 will be pointed to the address of low. Kasi we're going to make use of, this one is for simple variable. This one will be for dynamic array variable. Okay, again, these two pointers PT2 and PT3 will be assigned to a simple variable and asterisk PT1 will be assigned to an array variable. Okay, so in this case, I'm not going to make use of ampersand sign num subscript 0 since this is dynamic allocation. So dynamic, it's dynamically allocated, okay, what will happen here is we're going to declare new again. And the declaration of our high and low, if you're going to make, to see the declaration of the high and low, it is double. So that means the element within the array should be with fractional component. Say, for example, 222.56. Okay, so dapat ganin yung laman niya. So it should be double. So I'm going to make use of new and then double. But since this is already an array declaration, we're going to make use of the subscript to make it array, a pointer that points to an array variable. Okay, and then inside the subscript should be the size. Okay, so if we're going to, okay, in line 17 na tayo. So una muna, ito yung nasa line, sorry, wala pa pala. Okay, so sa line, wala pa tayo sa line, so magiging deleted to. Ito yung line 17. Line 17. So for line 17, 17 lang dito. So for line 17, I'm going to insert ng parts. Dali lang po. Okay, so in line 17, we're going to create again another box lang. Ang pangalan nitong box na to ay si PT1. So PT1, pointer PT1 will be pointed to a new allocation. Okay? A new dynamic allocation. So walang pangalan, dito siya ituturo. So initially, saan nakaturo itong si pointer PT1? Sino ba yung automatically pag nag-new ka, si pointer PT1 will be pointed to the first address of that dynamic allocation. So sino ba yung unang address doon sa dynamic allocation? That is actually value 0. Okay? So yun siya. Then PT2 will be assigned to high, ampersand sign high, and ampersand sign low. So, lagay natin yun. Gawa tayo. Meron akong isa pang box. Copy ko to. Paste ko dito. Ang pangalan nito ay si PT2. At ito naman ay si PT3. Si PT3, ito si PT2 ay kay high. So may simple variable tayo. Ito ay si low. So sino lang ang dynamic dito sa example natin? Ang dynamic lang dito si array. Kasi kanina pinakitaan ko na kayo ng dynamic variable, yung sa simple variable. So this time, we are having an example to make it dynamic is yung array. Okay? So insert tayo ulit ng line. So ito ay dito sa address nito. Tapos, ito rin ay sa address nito. So again, lagay lang tayo ng address ha. Pari ito ay 0xcc3. Ito naman si 0xcc4. So ang laman ng pointer PT2 ay itong OXCC3. At ang laman ng PT3 ay yung OXCC4. Okay? So kung kunwari, ito naman ay sabihin natin OXCC5. Tapos, lagyan lang natin siya ng address. Ayan. So, unang nakalaman dito ay yung unang address. Ito siya. Ayan. Okay. So, ang hawak ni pointer PT1 ay yung address ni 0, which is yung OXCC5. Okay. So, ito yon. Ito yung ginawa natin. Okay? Now, to populate the allocation of this particular dynamic array, again, same thing pa rin. Wala tayong pinagkaiba. Yun lang ang binago ko. The rest of the process are just the same. So, kung ano yung dati nating ginawa for executing the one-dimensional array, yun pa rin, ganun pa rin siya. Wala akong babaguhin dito. Okay? So, ganyan pa din ang pag-populate. Yun nga lang, ang mangyayari is ganito siya, di ba? Pagkain niya mo. So, naka-input siya doon sa Mag-i-input muna siya sa position 0 dahil dito. So, for I is equals to 0. So, pag nag-populate siya, okay, so maglalagay tayo for example ng 45. Okay, so yan yon. And then, mag-alter yung value ng I plus plus. So, itong pointer na to, magpo-point siya dito. K1. So, ang mangyayari, yung hawak ngayon ni pointer na address ay yung K1. Ayan, binago ko na yun dito. Okay? So, for example, ulit, input ako, 56.8. And then, pag nag-alter yung value ng I, magiging I++, pupunta siya dito kay 2. So, kung si 2 na, ang hawak na ngayon ni pointer na address ay yung K2. Ito na siya ngayon. And so on and so forth. Okay? Hanggang sa ma-reach niya na yung pinaka-last position. Okay? And then, ganun pa rin. So, if we want to take the address of, take the lowest and the highest value, ito siya. Okay, so the first position. So we always started the first position as the lowest and the highest. So that is actually, if we're going to make use of the pointer, so pointer PT1 will be pointed to the first address to make it the first and the lowest and the highest. So kung titignan, high initially, kunwari high equals, so asterisk PT1 and then plus 0. It means that pointer PT1 will be pointed to the first address to make the first address as the initial value of high. Same thing as low. Asterisk PT1 plus 0. So, pareha sila. Okay? Pareha silang initially, siya yung high, siya rin yung low. Ngayon, tinanggal lang natin to. Pinalitan lang natin yung high at saka yung low. Instead of using high and low, since pointer PT2 is pointed to the address of high, so we're going to make use of asterisk PT to get the content. Okay? So, take note of that. It's not PT only, but it's asterisk PT because we are getting the content where pointer PT is pointed. So, same pa rin. PT1 plus 0. Semicolon. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? If pointer PT is if pointer PT2 is pointed to high, and initially, we already assigned asterisk PT1 plus 0. Okay, so this becomes like asterisk PT2 equals 45. So, yan yung initial value ng high. Okay, so same thing as asterisk PT3 equals asterisk PT1 plus 0. That means I am pointing my pointer PT1 to the address of the first position, which is 0, and that should be the initial value also of high. So, ito is the same thing as asterisk PT3 equals 45. So, siya yung high at saka siya rin yung low. Okay? So, later on, gawin natin, mamaya, tatanggalin ko na dito si high and low. Okay? Papalitan na lang natin siya ng dynamic allocation. So, dito, papalitan din natin itong dalawa na to. Hindi na siya ampersand sign high, hindi na rin siya ampersand sign low. Later na lang siya. Then, the rest are just the same, no? Okay, so ganun pa rin. Kung titingnan ninyo, I am not deleting anything from the previous example. I only revise yung first few lines in the declaration, which is this portion, and in the executable, which is this portion. Kasi ang ginawa ko, di-dynamic ko lang siya. Okay, so let's run the code. Tingnan natin kung parehas pa rin. Okay, sorry, walang semicolon lang to. Run natin. So, enter 10 numbers. So, 2, 3, 3, 3, negative 999, 0, 99, negative 99, 89, 67, 56, 34. Ayan. So, kung titignan natin, highest value is 333 and the lowest value is negative 999. So, same pa rin yung output niya from the previous example. It's just that we created dynamic allocation. Okay? So, here, sa pinakadulo, yan. Paano natin ngayon i-delete kapag ang ating variable is dynamic array or array siya. So, we're going to use delete and then subscript. And then yung pointer na ginamit natin for that, which is pointer PT1, semicolon. So let's run again the code. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, negative 9. So 9 ang highest, lowest is 9. So pag in-enter key natin yon, ang mangyayari, kapag ito yung portion na to, delete PT1, ano yung mangyayari dun sa array natin. So kanina, sabihin natin kunwari, di ba ganito yung sa line 17, okay, sabihin natin, copy ko lang to. Yung sa line 17, yan yung kanyang allocation. Ang ginawa natin, delete. So, pag dinelete natin, matatanggal ito, wala nang nakapoint kay pointer PT, wala na ring address na nakalagay doon kay pointer PT1. Okay, so that's already the tawag dito. So, ito, madidelete na to. Ayan. Deleted na to kasi nag-delete ka na. So, mawawala na yan. Ito na ngayon siya. Yan. Tapos, ito, question mark. So, yan na yung ibig sabihin ng line 50. So, in line 50, it means we already deleted the dynamic allocation and pointer PT is now free to point to another array or simple variable. Okay? So, that's actually the simulation for dynamic array. Tayo. Okay. So, let's go back here in our code. Let's make PT2 and PT3 assigned to a dynamic allocation. So in that case, I'm not going to make use of high and low. I'm going to create dynamic allocation. Okay? So here, what will happen is, it will be no longer pointed to from our previous, PT2 is pointed to the address of high. So if we are going to create it as dynamic allocation, so high will be omitted here. And then I'm going to make use of new double. Same thing as PT3. So this one becomes new double. So in that case, there's no name na kasi hindi na siya static. Okay, so let's say for example, ganun pa rin yung address pero wala na siyang pangalan kasi dynamic na yung creation natin, hindi na siya yung static. Wala nang declaration ng high at saka ng low. Okay? So that's it. Yun lang. As in, yun lang yung babaguhin ninyo. The rest of the codes are just the same. From pointers. If you know the pointers from week 3, that's it. Tapos, yun lang yung papalitan natin. Yun lang ang mawawala sa declaration. Lahat ng static variables. Ang matitira na lang ay yung mga pointer variables. Sa executable, una munang gagawin is to point all the pointers in a dynamic allocation. Whether it is an array or a simple variable. Okay, so again, let's run the code. Ganun pa rin ang mangyayari. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 99,999, 0, 34. So, highest is 999, lowest is negative 99. So, same pa rin. So, same output but in different executable portion when it comes to dynamic allocation.